We're going to talk about parallax scrolling in this video. It's a really interesting way to make your website look even more professional. So I'm on my homepage right now and I have a lot of text about sailing, but what I'm going to do is add some parallax scrolling. So it's background images and the text scrolls over the top. Let's go to the HTML first. I'm on my homepage. So first thing I'm going to do is add a few divs. So a few containers. We learned about divs in the last video. This first div is just going to be empty. So it's not going to contain anything. It's just going to, I guess what it will contain is an image, and that's it. So I'm going to call this my top BG for my top background, and that is it. Nothing else will go in this div, so I'll just open and close it. Next thing I will do is put all of my content in its own div, in its own container. And I'm going to call this my, I'll call this my scroll text. This is the text that's going to scroll over the top of the images. I will indent all of this text and close that div. Now this next part you can do however you want, but what I'm going to do is change images from the top to the bottom. So I'll create one more div. I'll call this class my bottom background, and then just close the div. The only thing this will contain is just that background image. Okay, that's all we need to do in the HTML. It's the CSS where things are really going to happen. Okay, there are a lot of things we're going to do here, so let's add some stuff here. So we'll begin parallax styling, and we'll end the parallax styling. There. All right, in between a lot is going to happen. The big secret, or the big part of it all, is the images. The images are going to be stuck in place and the text will scroll over the top. So I'm going to first style the top background image. Okay, first thing first, we're going to determine which background image it's going to be. So I'll just scroll down. Since my typing hasn't been great, the URL, in other words, what is the link for that image? And you can see on the left, I have two sailing images. I'm going to use sailing 1 for my top image. Okay, so that just puts the background image there. What I need to do now is give it a size. The size is going to determine how much space, of course, it takes up at the top of the screen, and you can play around with whatever works best for yours. So for mine, I'm going to say the min height. So this is giving that image a height. I'm going to use 400 pixels. I forgot a semicolon at the end of this line. Notice that this was blue, so that kind of alerted me that I forgot a semicolon. Now it's red like it should be. All right, that's good. Next thing we need to do is make that image stick in place, and we want it to take up the entire space that's there. So there are a few things we're going to do here. We're going to say we want that background to be attached. We want it to be fixed. In other words, we do not want that background to scroll at all. So we want it to stick to the back. We want the background position. We want to center that image. We don't want the image to repeat itself because we're saying, otherwise it would just repeat itself over and over to fill the space. So we're going to say background, repeat, no repeat. None would have worked as well. I spelled background wrong. Thank you, Replit. And one last thing, we're going to say we want the size of this image to cover the entire space. Okay, let's go take a look at what that did. So that made the image, the background, made the height, set it fixed, made it centered, and don't repeat. So let's go take a look at what that did here. I'm going to refresh this, and there's my image. It's my first sailing image. There's my text. Nothing's happening right now. Okay, so it's not very interesting yet. Let's go back. I want to make the bottom background a different image. So all of this is going to be pretty much the same. I'm just going to copy it, Command C. I'm going to paste it, Command V, and I'm going to change this to be the bottom background, and everything else is going to be the same, except it's going to be the Sailing 2 image. Okay, let's go take a look at that. If I refresh, there's my top image, there's my bottom image, and there is the text. So this is the parallax effect, where it looks like we're scrolling over the top image, scrolling, and the bottom image shows up. But it's not quite exactly the way I want it to be, because I can see the top image and I can see the bottom image. So the last thing we're going to do is add a little bit of styling to that text. So let's do that. One last thing for the scroll text. I'm going to give it a height because I want to take up a little bit more space, 250 pixels. That way it will hide the seam between the top image and the bottom image. The font size, I want to make that 24 pixels just so it's a little bit more dominant. And then the background color. I don't want it to be just that blue, so I'm going to change it to be this transparent white color. So something we haven't talked about yet is Rgba. And Rgba it allows you to have a color, but also make it not solid. So it'll make it a little bit more transparent. I'm using white, and I'm going to use 0.5 for the opacity. Opacity means how transparent is it. And you can change that number. 1 means it's solid. 0.5 is half solid. So let's take a look. Let's refresh this page. We made that a little bit larger. We made everything larger. Now all we're seeing is this top image. And when we scroll, the text is covering up the top image and the bottom image is revealed. So that's parallax scrolling. Kind of makes that cool appearance of one image and then the next.